If you're a Caribbean that loves art, then keep watching this video so I can teach you about the best painter that Puerto Rico has ever produced. A strong abolitionist who pushed for the abolition of slavery in Puerto Rico, a dear friend to Dr. Ramon Emeterio Betances, el padre de la patria puertorriqueña, and the only Latin American artist to have played a role in the development of Impressionism, Fransisco Oller de Bayamón, Puerto Rico. Impressionism is that new movement in art that developed in the 19th century in France that steered away from blending and favored thin and short brushstrokes. Impressionism really highlights how light hits the subject rather than realism. And I'm sure you guys have at least seen one of these pieces of art that all fall under Impressionism, made by famous artists like Monet, Pissarro, and Cézanne, who were all buddies with Oller. He studied painting in Europe across Madrid and Paris for decades. But now Fransisco Oller was a true proud Puerto Rican, and no matter where he traveled to in the world, he brought the Caribbean with him through his art, making countless paintings of fruits that we consume on the island, like coco, piña, guayaba, guanábana, guineo, pajuiles. I'm hungry. Highlighting the agricultural-based lifestyle lived on the island with the painting of Hacienda La Fortuna and Hacienda Buenavista in Ponce, but most notably highlighting the people, the Puerto Rican people, and the different races amongst us.
Yeah, I know Puerto Rican, you little piece of
One of my favorite art pieces of Oller, or my favorite art pieces ever, is La Escuela del Maestro Rafael Cordero. Being the son of parents who were once enslaved, Rafael Cordero founded the very first classroom for male children of color in Puerto Rico. Cordero School was open for children of slaves and former slaves, and for all children really coming from all types of social classes. I really love this painting because it really captures that rural Puerto Rican lifestyle at the time. In the lower right corner, you can see the table used for spinning tobacco. On the walls, you can see religious paintings with the crucifix, and hanging right beside it, a whip, very significant. And then in the background, you can see a doorway leading to the palm trees and the beautiful Caribbean sun shining in. And amongst these children are the journalist and defender of the abolition of slavery, Jose Julián Acosta, the poet Alejandro Tapia y Rivera, and the writer Manuel Isaburu Vicarrondo. You know, he's the father of Puerto Rican public education, and here he is caring for all these Puerto Rican kids. What a beautiful piece. And my absolute favorite piece of Oller, El Velorio. Now this piece right here I think is the most important in Puerto Rican art history, period. Forget about Abuela's flamboyant paintings on the wall, y'all need to put this in your homes. El Velorio, or the wake, was completed in 1893 in Rio Piedras, but wasn't exhibited to the public till the celebration of the 4th centenary of Puerto Rico's discovery. 4 centuries ago. That's what centenary means. I just learned that like 4 centuries ago, centenary. 4th centenary? Wow. And in just one piece, the whole Puerto Rican cultural identity is captured in this deceased baby's wake, El Velorio. Now already we see la casita campesina hecha de madera with a straw roof and the plátanos hanging from it. We're familiarized with the scene. But then when you really look at it, there's so much detail that can leave you looking at this piece for hours. Nah, maybe not. But a long time. Now if you look at everybody's expression in this home, they're all happy, they're celebrating, they're throwing down a party. Now is this a funeral or a celebration? I don't know. Tenían que ser boricua. Now this funeral ritual comes from the 19th century belief where people thought if a baptized child dies, their pure soul immediately goes to heaven as a little angel. Now with this tradition, you cannot cry in the funeral because then your tears would wet their wings, preventing them to fly up to heaven. The ritual consisted of guests dancing, eating, drinking, singing, celebrating around the deceased child's body all night for a joyful farewell. We see people of all different shades of color, highlighting our European, African, and indigenous Taino roots. Our Taino elements can be seen from the bohío-style roof with items hanging from its beams, like the 2 coconut seed containers hanging from the mahagua fibers, and the giant corn, and the plantains, el lechón asado, depicting what people consumed at the time. We can see musical instruments like the maracas, el güiro, and if we look beside the deceased child's body, we find a low wooden chair that resembles a Taino duo, which was a wooden chair that Taino caciques, or chiefs, would use to sit and communicate with the spirit world while inhaling hallucinogenic caoba. I find it so interesting that Oller placed this little wooden stool right beside the baby. The infant is laying on a wooden table covered in a lace cloth, very Puerto Rican, very popular amongst us. We see pets like a dog and the cat on the roof, brica cards on the floor, children fighting, and overall people singing and playing musical instruments. Most of the people in this painting were modeled by real workers and family members of the Saburu family, owners of the Santa Barbara Hacienda in Carolina. All 25 people in this painting have a unique expression, and I think what they're looking at is very significant to what Oller wanted to evoke. For example, the priests, they're focusing on the pig. The only person with like a sad expression is the black man looking at the baby. This man was actually a real person who was a former slave that then became a beggar. There's so many things I could talk about with this painting that this video would never end. Now you could find this massive 8 by 13 foot painting in the Museum of Art, History, and Anthropology of the University of Puerto Rico in Rio Piedras, La UPI, the island's first university that Fransisco Oller inaugurated in its first year as an art professor in 1903. Although I have been able to visit this beautiful campus, I wasn't able to see El Velorio. But traveling to Paris last week for spring break gave me me the chance to see one of his pieces in person. El Estudiante, the student, can be found in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, France. The student evokes the domestic intimacy of a couple sewing and reading, details such as the objects on the desk and chair, the diminutive pictures on the wall, and the small shelf for glass objects to describe with subtle precision. Fransisco Oller is truly the best artist that the island of Puerto Rico has produced. I hope I was able to teach you guys something new, y les exhorto que busquen más información sobre muchas leyendas de nuestra isla. Or you could just follow me.
Ruega por tus padres y por tus hermanos.